Hello, everyone. It's April 5th. It's Thursday. It's Harp Thursday. And I'm sorry I haven't managed to get out an episode in the last little while. In large part just because I haven't been able to come up with a topic that I was happy with. I do want to do some more in-depth looks at pieces, but I don't have anything prepared quite right at the moment. And I'm still working on this last episode of Greensleeves, and so I just found myself without a great topic. And so I think I'll start this week by saying once again that I would always love to hear from you if you have any ideas for topics, whether it's a piece that you'd like me to talk about, or maybe some fingering that you have problems with, or anything like that. I'd love to hear from you. So, and I have definitely gotten some great suggestions in the past, so that would love to hear from you. But yesterday I tried to record the second part of How to Read Music, which was a very basic episode I did over a year ago, I guess. I talked about how to find the notes, and I didn't talk about rhythm. And at some point I do want to do that episode, but I wasn't very happy with what I did the other day. But it did give me an idea for what I'm going to talk about this week, and that's just a little look at dealing with tricky rhythms. You know, if all we had to do was count 1, 2, 3, 4 and play something like that, or a little waltz, life would be easy. But sometimes you'll come across a rhythm that bothers you for one reason or another. And so I'm just going to talk about some of the ways to deal with that. And actually there was a great example when I was doing that memorizing episode. And I was playing through Flowers in the Valley, and I got to this little middle section, and for some reason the rhythm there I just found a little peculiar. And in part, I think, because I'd played it before years ago, so I sort of had an idea of what it was supposed to sound like. And of course, when we approach a piece for the very first time, when we take it quite slowly and we're analyzing everything, then that tends to be easier in terms of learning the rhythm, because you know, if something is a little strange, we just take it slowly and figure out how it works. Whereas if you're sight reading a piece and trying to just play it at tempo right then, sometimes you come across a rhythm and it's just, whoa, wait, what's going on here? So the trick, of course, in a case like that is just to take it back down really slowly and break it back down mathematically and see how it works. So the section I'm talking about is this section here, and I'm hoping to have an overlay up so that I can be pointing with my mouse and showing you the music. This. And this little part here was just throwing me for a little bit of a loop. And so the thing to do would be to take that really slowly and say, okay, now what's happening here? Let's pick something to count, and let's pick, in this case we have 16th notes are our fastest note. So let's count 8th notes is our beat, 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's go back to this pickup. So maybe that's, 1, 2, and then this is 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Because of course a dotted note is always worth 3 of the next of the faster note after it. In other words, this is a dotted quarter, so it's going to be worth 3/8 notes. If we put a tail on it and do 3 of them, then we have that's the note value. So 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1. And of course we could break it down by just doing that little section there. Let's see, we're going to have 4, 1, and again these are worth 3 16th notes, or in other words, a dotted rhythm is always 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3. So 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1. And we can do that a few times. For me, I think it was the fact that we were going from this these longer notes, and then we had these 8th notes, and I just kind of wanted to go to do them all, to do that very first 8th note as a 16th note, to do them all as these dotted rhythms instead of So taking it back slow like that, and also in a case like this where we have these dotted rhythms, sometimes it might be easier to get it in our ear and hear it if we ignore them. Let's get out the dot and play them as just a string of eighth notes. Then, so, and now if we're counting the quarters, 1, 1, 2, then 3, 4, and 1, and 2, and 3. You know, that's fairly easy. That makes sense. And now how about and then we can check, can we feel the big, like maybe can we tap our feet or feel that big pulse of the sort of the 2 beats to the bar. So now we're looking at the half notes. So we get 1 and 1. Sorry, what are we at? 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So, you know, boom, boom. And there we are. So in that case, it's a, you know, if you come across something, you're sight reading, and then suddenly the rhythm puzzles you a little bit, take it down, break it down, and figure out, oh, what's going on here mathematically. And of course, the only other thing about that little section is that sometimes with dotted rhythms, and especially as they get faster, there's a tendency for them to start to want to be triplets. So we get 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And especially here, because this first note is supposed to be longer, so we almost want to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And just remind yourself that the 16th is shorter, and that you want to hear how that, you know, that little breath in between. Anyway, so there that is. I'm going to look at something in a piece that I'm working on right now. I mentioned before, this Bach Partitia, and the Sarabande. Now this is a case where Bach, you know, starts out innocently enough, and then right away we get these 32nd notes in this slow piece, and then later on we have some 64th notes. So when you look at this for the first time, it can look kind of intimidating in terms of figuring out what's going on. And let's just take an example such as, these are both the same, but let's do this, where you might look at it and say, whoa, you know, what's going on? So again, let's break this down, and so what you want to do is figure out a note value to break it down to. So let's break it down. And oftentimes the second, so not the shortest, but the second shortest, which in this case are 32nd notes, that can be a good place to start with. So with 32nd notes, and let's play this again, just as sometimes you can play the dotted as just straight 8th or 16th or whatever the note value is. Let's play this tied note, so we don't have to worry about that. We're going to play that F again. So we're going to have 2 32nd notes, 1, 2, and then these guys are 64ths, so they're going to be 1 and 2n. So we have 1, 2, 1, and 2, and 1, 2, 1. So 1, 2, 1, and 2, and 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1, and 2, and 1, 2, 1. And let's leave out that. Let's play it as written with a tie. So we get 1, 2, 1, and 2, and 1, 2, 1. Now let's see if we can break it down and feel the 16th note is the beat. So then we're going to have 1, 2, E, and 1, 1, and 2. So 1, 2, E, and 1, and 2, 1, and 2, E, and 1, and 2, 1, and 2, E, and 1, and 2. So now we're starting to feel that bigger pulse. And if we try to feel the eighth note, then we can check to see where that's happening. So it's happening on this F, and it's happening on this F again, right? We can check. Here's a 16th note. That's half of an eighth note. And these guys, there's, well, two of those are equal to 1/16. We can get rid of that one bar. So now we only have 2/16 and 2/32. Sorry, two of these are equal to a 32nd. So these 4/64 are equal to 2/32, and 2/32 are equal to 1/16. So we have, in effect, 2/16 here, or 1/8. Cool, so that's an eighth. And here we can check again. We have 16th, which is half of an eighth, and the 2/32 are equal to 1/16, which is our other half of the eighth. So in this span, if we feel this bigger pulse, and that's not too bad. Similarly, here was a section which I had to work on a little bit, and it was just trying to feel again, because your goal is to be able to feel that pulse, to have that rhythm feel natural, and you can breathe it, and you can, if you want, play around with it a little bit, and you still feel where it is. So this was a section where suddenly we had these 64th notes in there in kind of a strange, felt like a somewhat strange position. Here's, when they start, that kind of wants to feel like the start of some sort of beat, the start of a pulse. And yet it's, in fact, this fourth beat of this eighth note section. And so that just took a little bit of taking it slow. Let's see. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 1. However that works out. Or we could even count these 30-second notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1. And once you've got those notes and rhythm in your hands, and move it up a little faster, trying to feel these eighth note pulses, so that we feel the pulse here starting on that C rather than on the start of those 30-second notes. And you can break it down, so you're just stopping there. Okay, that's the start of a beat. And you can break down this. Etc., etc. So again, just breaking it down. And the final, or not the final thing, but another little thing I just want to talk about comes from Ceremony of Carols, which was my very first Harp Tuesday episode. So, and in here I talk about the interlude, and this is a great example of a case where reading it's not that the rhythm is tricky in that it's hard to do, but it's hard to read. Because, for example, here we start, and we're in 12/8, and we start with a quarter rest, another quarter, and then an eighth, and now a dotted quarter. Well, we might expect that might be a beat, but is it? And it's just that case of, if you string enough notes where they're not starting on a beat, because, for example, this isn't starting on the beat, right? It's starting on a 3, and so then right away we start to lose our ability to sight read, or to make it have it make a lot of sense as we see it on the page. So for something like that, it can be really, really handy to go through it and mark in the beats, for example, in this case, because once you've got those beats marked in there, then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. No problem. But if you're trying to read and figure out how do these work in relationship to each other, it just takes a little bit of effort. And there's a chance when you're playing it, you might forget or go, wait, what's going on here? Of course, this is a solo, so it doesn't really necessarily matter as much. But so just writing things down in a situation like that can be a great aid in terms of clearing up any confusion. So then I want to talk about, where did that go? I pulled it out, but there we are. Mr. Samuel Milligan, medieval to modern. And I'm going to talk about rhythms such as 3 against 2, because this is a classic tricky rhythm that you should know, and it's kind of fun. So, of course, this is a classic this is The Blue Dove, a Mexican folk song. What do we get? Etc. Anyway, great, nice piece. It's a nice book, some good music in here. But in that case, you're switching from playing 1, 2, 3 to 1, 2 in the same amount of time. In other words, that 3 takes up half the bar, and then the 2 takes up half the bar. And of course, in some pieces, you're going to be playing 3 against 2 at the same time. You might be playing and so the first time you encounter that, that seems pretty crazy. And so how do you do that? Well, actually, anytime you encounter like a 3 against 5 or 7 against 4, any sort of those strange configurations, you can break it down mathematically. In other words, we can, in the case of 3 against 2, let's multiply 3 times 2, so we get 6. And so we're going to be we can break it down into 6 beats. Okay? And so the 3 is going to come on the 1, the 3, the 5, and then the 1 again. So we get, 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5. And the 2 is going to come on the 1 and the 4. 1, 4, 1, 4. So then if you put them together, let's use these 6 fingers, and you can see that both of them come together on the 1. Nobody comes on the 2. The first beat of the group of 3 comes on 3. The first beat of the group of 2 comes on 4. And then the second beat, or that was the second beat in both those cases. The last beat of the beat of 3 comes on 5, and nothing comes on 6. So that we get, they're together, nothing, triplet, duple, triplet, nothing. So you can see right in the middle, there they are together. And you could count that as, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that in other words, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. With this being the triplets here and the duples down here. Or the way I like to count it is just 1, 2, and 3. Because you'll notice that that's the triplet comes on either the duple comes in between the triplets, and it at an even pace. It's exactly in between them, so it's like an and. So if we have 1, 2, 3, we have that second duple coming in at 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3. And you can do this when you're away from the harp too. You can like beat on your pat on your knees. 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, and see if you can get that going faster. I guess you can't really see that, but same thing on the harp. And you should be able to hear that, oh yeah, this is going along at a steady pace. And this is going along at a steady pace. And there's actually 3 of them for every 2 of these. And yet, you know, it's all going along nicely. It's all fitting together quite nicely. So that's something fun to play around with. And yeah, that 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3. And then hopefully you kind of get that in your ear. And in this, for example, this piece, you don't actually have the 2 going along underneath the 3 or the 3 going along underneath the 2, because oftentimes that's easier. But in this case, we get 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So there, try count, you know, we have this 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, and 1, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, and 1, and 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, and 1, and, or maybe when you're doing it, count along with the 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then switch to the 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, which is kind of tricky, so that we get that pulse again of, and obviously you can take a metronome to check whether you're keeping that than I wanted to go, but that you're keeping that again there's the same amount of time spent on the 3s and the 2s. So that's just something to look about there. And again, if you get some there's the Debussy dances, there's a section where it's, what is it, 3 against 5, and you can count that out and slowly work that out mathematically. And then also you can try playing it just feeling the pulse. And for example, actually, the Britten, again in that interlude, there's a section towards the end where we suddenly start this little arpeggio kind of thing, getting slow. We go from 4s to 5s to 6 to 7 to 8. And yes, you could try to chart that all out mathematically and figure out precisely how much faster, you know, everything is going. But wow, that would be pretty crazy. Instead, what you want to do is feel that pulse. Try to make sure that that these dotted quarters are staying the same. That can actually be a good exercise, is to get a metronome going and see if you can play random lengths of notes and make it fit. So we might have something like that, but just playing around with one's ability to not necessarily keep everything even inside, but not try to assign a particular amount of value to a note, but just try to make them fit within a pulse. So yeah, hopefully that's given you some food for thought. And yes, once again, let me know if you have any ideas for topics, and I will see you hopefully in 2 weeks' time. Cheers.